start by talking about what kind of functions to smart cities from a point of view of transportation actually are looking at. So one thing is, of course, most obvious one is real-time control of traffic, adaptive control of traffic. So you can use sensors at traffic lights and intersections in order to decide, when to turn the light on and off and what sequence and so forth. And that's something that has been used for some time, but probably nowadays you could say that it's based on more modern, computer vision sensing technology and IoTs and things like that. So one natural use is the combination of vision and IoTs for traffic pattern control at lights and so on. The second that I think is a natural thing to use, and it's probably not as often used, but still kind of used, is actually informing traffic pattern and other information to the drivers, because all the vehicles nowadays are connected through maps and Wi-Fi. So sending alerts on where there are traffic jams and where there is traffic density variations and accidents and stuff like that. I think that's actually something that gets used. Perhaps not as much as the traffic lights, but still. So there again, the primary, the technology is actually just communication, Wi-Fi, and so forth. Nothing special in terms of sensing, but perhaps a system that will automatically translate the sensed information into these messages and so on. The third, probably less often used, but sometimes it's used in certain buildings and such, but not widely perhaps, is actually parking management. Telling people, what the current parking situation is, especially in a city. When you're driving through a city, you're always looking for parking. And to make that easier, to give alerts on which parking lots have more or less spaces. So that's, something, but that again, it's a matter of sensing what is, available in the parking lots and communicating through the various Wi-Fi mechanism. And then the last one, which I don't know how widely it's getting used, but natural one to use is actually when you have public transportation, like buses very often in cities, adjusting the bus timing pattern to adapt to the, needs. I mean, typically that's not done, but it can be done. And again, you will look at, what's the occupancy level of buses. Cities tend to do this on a fixed basis, like increasing the frequency during peak hours and so on. But it's very easy to imagine that you can actually do this in an adaptive basis, where you sense the traffic or the requirement, the congestion at the bus stops, or how congested the buses are, to increase the frequency as needed. So those are the primary applications, but the main sensors that are used are IoT sensors, vision, computer vision usually, and communication technology. It's kind of funny. The biggest challenges today are probably the challenges that have always been there. It seems like the roads are always congested. In other words, the more roads we build, the more occupied they become. And the second one, of course, is becoming increasingly relevant is pollution and the air quality decrease in major cities. And these have all been traditional problems, but they've just gotten worse. And I think the answer to these things clearly lie in adaptive traffic management and probably more use of electric vehicles and such, but these are the challenges. Probably the biggest one that's going to be relevant is really electric vehicles. And the fact that they are increasingly electric, and not only that, they all tend to be connected. And this certainly increases, I think, the awareness of traffic conditions, but also potentially decreasing congestion and pollution because of the infrastructure. But I think one thing that's kind of becoming more and more relevant is availability of charging for electric vehicles. And you've been looking at recently trends towards creating a charging standard that might enable more continuous supercharging availability and guidance to those. So I primarily see the trend towards electric vehicles and increased sensing and communication